Hey, what's going on, everyone? And welcome to episode 55 of the Alec Walt Show. I'm your host, Alec Walt, alongside another very special guest. And today, we're talking about the NBA. The Golden State Warriors are a team sitting atop the Western Conference, and they're missing a couple key pieces. Will they stay atop the Western Conference? Are they the team to beat when their full team is healthy? We're going to talk about all of that and more with Kyle Russo from Review and Preview and JDF Sports. What's going on, Kyle? Welcome back.
Nothing much, man. Happy to be back. It's been a minute. But the NBA season has gone underway. We are about 10 plus games into the season per team, and the Warriors, my friend, are something incredible to watch.
Yeah, I mean they're 10-1 through the first 11 games of the season. I normally ask questions like, "Are you surprised by the start?" With Steph Curry leading the show, Steve Kerr on the bench. It's really not a surprise. They could not be off to a better start. I mean, maybe they could be 11-0, but realistically, 10-1 is an unbelievable start to the season here for the Warriors.
Yeah, Alec, we were talking about it beforehand. They really could be 11-1. Their only loss is to a Memphis team in an overtime loss by 3 points.
Yeah,
That's their only loss. Otherwise, they're 11-0 on the season right now. But could they be off to a hotter start? Did we expect something like this? I don't think anybody can expect this kind of dominance, even though, they have one of the second easiest starts of the season than other teams in the NBA. You still got to win these games. And the way they're winning these games is what's been even more impressive to me because they have all the skill in the world. They do. You have Steph Curry on your team. I mean, you saw what he did last year, right? The
hmm
way he played last year, the way he ended off the season, I thought he should have won the MVP trophy. Goes to Nikola Jokic, but he carried that team, like carried that team, and he's still semi carrying that team after dropping what a 50 piece the other night, something like that.
yeah, 50 and 10 against the Hawks.
Yeah, just stupid numbers. Just like it's like if you're an opposing defense, this is the greatest shooter of all time.
Yeah,
This is the way you're going to lose if you don't guard him, and you just watch hands in the face, absolutely no space, and he just chucks it up and it goes in. And you just say to yourself, well, there's no formula to stopping Steph Curry, so that means there's no formula to stop this Warriors team. And that's what's really scary right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 27.4 points per game. That's second in the NBA.
Yeah.
And he's also shooting 38.5% from three, which is just absolutely nuts. I mean, this guy seems pretty much unguardable, and he's 33 years old. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm watching the Steph from 5 years ago with the way he's running so smoothly around the court.
What's even crazier to think about, because I thought about this the other day, is just like we talk about the length and longevity in which players could play, like when we talk about like the late 30s and early 40s, and you just say to yourself, well, in today's day and age where you can't really play rough nosed defense, and this is a perimeter shooter guy, obviously see him drive the lane on numerous occasions, but can you just imagine? I'm just envisioning a 40-year-old Steph Curry still just absolute buckets from the 3 point line because he's still unguardable and he's not going to lose this beautiful shooter's touch that he has established. So who's stopping him? It doesn't matter how old he is. It just comes down to when he wants to retire. That's when all is said and done. That's when the league could take a step back and just say, "Oh man, we don't have to worry about Steph Curry anymore because nothing is stopping him. He's unguardable. He probably gets some of the least separation in basketball and still is probably one of the more efficient players in basketball, which
Yeah.
makes no sense, but he does it."
And the crazy thing about it is, we're in a league where everyone loves to talk about the duos and the star teams and like you got the Lakers with Russell, AD, and LeBron, and the list goes on and on. I'm looking at their roster right here. Unless I'm missing something, Kyle, I'm not seeing the name Klay Thompson nor the guy they drafted number 2 last year
Yep.
in the NBA. They're 10-1. Steph Curry looks like the MVP, and two of the best players on this team aren't even here.
It's crazy, man. Just crazy. I mean, it's just I'm sitting here smiling like a goofball, but I love it. I just love it because it's just like you watch this stuff and people say you got to cherish these types of moments. Like, I'm a Giants fan, and all these years Tom Brady just dominating the league, and even when on New England, again the satisfactory of of the Giants, obviously winning 2 Super Bowls from Tom Brady, but just watching the greatness of this man, you just got to sit back and laugh by the fact that this is a 44-year-old who's posed to win the MVP. And you look at the same thing at Steph Curry. Doesn't have a super team, at least not yet. Right now, he doesn't have a super team yet, but he's absolutely balling out of his mind with guys like Draymond Green, who is a great defensive player, but doesn't really contribute offensively. Andrew Wiggins, who was considered a bust for a while, but now is having a solid season. And guys like Jordan Poole, who was a late first round, early second round pick out of Michigan, and Damian Lee, who was, I think, undrafted. And between Jordan Poole and Damian Lee, I think they're averaging combined around 25 plus points per game off the bench. And they're not even touching their top 14, 2 of their first round picks this year, and Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. And they're still playing this well. And it just makes you say, wow. Like, just wow, man.
So, like, is it going to be fair around the NBA when Klay comes back? Like, I understand the Klay that's going to be returning. We can't expect this is going to be the Klay from 5 years ago. I mean, his shot's going to be amazing, but he's recovering from an injury. Like, what are your expectations for this team when he comes back in the lineup? Like, can anyone in the Western Conference stop them right now?
No, I don't think, to be honest, forget about the Western Conference. I don't think anything could stop them right now.
Okay.
I think they are right back to the form in which they left off. I think a lot of people would agree that even 2 years ago, if they were healthy in that 2019 NBA Finals, they win that NBA Finals. And we're not talking about this team in today's day and age in 2021 like that dynasty happened 10 years ago. It only happened 2 years ago. That's how people talk about this team. They talk about this team like they weren't good just 2 years ago, like they weren't games away from winning another NBA Finals underneath their belt just 2 years ago. Like, and what's, again, like we talked about with Steph, or like I talked about with Steph, Klay Thompson, while when he left the game, he was a great two-way player. And he had, again, probably right behind Steph, has the opportunity to be the second greatest shooter of all time on the same team, which is just crazy to even think about, but is the reality of this case. He doesn't have to worry about that. It's just the perimeter dominance of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. That's not going to go away. Do I think it's going to take some time for Klay to get the ability to shoot efficiently back underneath his belt at a high level the way he left the game? Maybe. And I say maybe because I feel like people try to throw doubt on this team when in reality, I think everybody's just putting doubt because they're scared to say that Klay Thompson is going to come back to form and this team is going to be, I think, even crazier than they once were. Because now they are just completely well-rounded. They have defense. They have a center that I think in a second year is going to be better than any center that they had during their NBA Finals run in a Andrew Bogut or a Zaza Pachulia or a Kevin Looney.
What was it? And JaVale McGee was another one.
And a JaVale McGee might have been one of the best centers on those dynasty teams. And you got James Wiseman, who's youthful and had a okay rookie year, a second year of that. You have Draymond Green, who looks like the dynasty Draymond Green, once again, the defensive monster contributing the way he does. And you have those solid role players that they were missing the last couple of years. They didn't have the Sean Livingston anymore. They didn't have the Barbosa. They didn't have the Iguodala, but now they got Iguodala back. They got Otto Porter Jr., who has a nice solid role with them now. I think he's averaging around 11 points per game or something like that. They have Jordan Poole, who's developed really nicely. Damian Lee, who's developed really nicely. And you just say to yourself, well, what is the weakness on this team? And there's just nothing, because they can kill you offensively. And defensively, I mean, again, once Wiseman comes back, because he's way more mobile than a Kevon Looney and way more athletic than a Kevon Looney, you just say to yourself, well, what is any team doing against this team? I mean, you're not stopping the perimeter, and you're not getting anything in the paint. So what are you doing to compete with this team? And I just say to myself, I don't think anything.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely insane when Klay Thompson gets back. Because think about it, we already talked about Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
Think about that presence coming off the bench.
Yeah.
We talk about Lee, who already is coming off the bench, but now you have that as your backcourt, as depth behind the best backcourt when healthy already in basketball. This was my one concern about the Warriors.
Mhm.
Everyone always talks about the Western Conference. The Western Conference is stacked. How long can certain teams deal with players not in the lineup? I look at this Warriors team right now and the rest of the landscape of the Western Conference. They don't need to rush Klay back at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm in 100% agreement with you. I look at this Western Conference in one way. I don't really if I'm the Warriors or if I'm somebody from the sidelines, which I am, I'm looking at the rest of the West and I'm saying the only concern I have is the Lakers, and that's because of LeBron James. And with LeBron James, you always have a chance on your team. Even though they can't really figure things out right now, a lot of Laker fans and a lot of basketball fans concerned with, well, Russell Westbrook looks decent right now, had a really good game last night. But when LeBron's on the court with Russell Westbrook, he does not look good at all. But they'll figure that out over time with chemistry. All the other teams, and we talk about Utah, they are regular season troopers. They are tremendous. Do it in the playoffs. Can't do it in the playoffs. You look at the Clippers, they are missing Kawhi Leonard basically the entirety of the season. So we'll see where they stand. You look at Phoenix, I like Phoenix. They're a good team.
I do
I
too.
have nothing against them. I just I think they're too young right now. I don't think they're at this point. I get they have Chris Paul just coming off an NBA Finals, but I think a lot of people would agree with me when I say, well, if it wasn't for all these All-Star injuries in the Western Conference last year, would they have really made it this far? Even the first round, would they have made it as far as they wouldn't they have even made it out of the first round, Alec, if they played LeBron James in an entire Lakers series or a healthy Anthony Davis in that first round? And my answer is no. I think 9 times out of 10, they finish that series off. And then you look at some other teams as well. Dallas, nobody knows what Dallas is. Denver, same kind of situation. Started off the season very cold, kind of figuring themselves out. They're missing Jamal Murray, which is huge. He just tore his ACL last year, so we'll see when he gets back. The only team I'm afraid of is the Lakers, and that's because it's LeBron James. Otherwise, if you're Golden State, you're saying to yourself, you're laughing in the bank because you know you're already the best team, let alone the Western Conference. You're the best team in basketball, and you're getting Klay Thompson back, and you're getting James Wiseman back, and you're letting your rookies like just develop in practice right now, riding the bench, and you'll probably see them getting implemented into the offense one way or another later on in the season. And we'll be talking about them in the playoffs like, oh my goodness, look at the way Kuminga and look at the way Moody are playing. They haven't even touched them yet.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't think any team is touching this team. I don't, because I just don't. What is the formula, Alec, to stop this team? What is you go into a game right now? You're an opposing team. What do you say as a coach? What do you say as a game plan to stop this team? Oh, well, guard Steph Curry. Well, put 2-3 guys on him. You know what? Put all 5 on him. He's still going to knock the shot down, make
Yeah,
it
he
look dumb.
still
It
will.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I mean, when I look at, the team who might have the best game plan to stop him, I feel like it's not in the Western Conference. I feel like it's Milwaukee because of the defensive respect you have to give to Holiday and Antetokounmpo. But I still don't see the Bucks as a perfect team to stop this Warriors team. I think everything you said about the Western Conference is spot on. Love Utah's defense, but they're not going to Golden State and winning on the road. Phoenix, think they're really good. I think Chris Paul is one of the best point guards in this league, but I don't think from a depth lineup perspective, they're good enough. Denver, same thing. My one concern with the Lakers is I think they turn the ball over too much. And this team will crush you if that's what you do against them in a series.
They do. They do. And a lot of the turnovers are what we talked about before, come from Russell Westbrook solely. He averages 5.5 turnovers a game.
Yeah.
But that's what's going to be interesting to find out how they play. And that's why I say I think it's going to take a little bit of time. Because when LeBron James is on the floor, he's the primary ball handler. It's not going to be Russell. And Russell Westbrook primarily turns the ball over when he is the ball handler. That's when he turns the ball over. So I think when you take that out of that aspect of his game, because I think that's what's going to happen over the course of time, he'll be better in that sense. It's just a matter of what can he contribute offensively now in his game, now that he doesn't have the ball in his hands like he did in OKC, like he did with the Rockets, like he did in his one season with the Wizards. Like this is the first time in Russell Westbrook's career where he doesn't have the ball in his hand at all times.
Yeah. I mean, that was one thing we all knew he had to adjust when switching teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that is really my only one concern with the Lakers. I do think the Lakers definitely have a roster to beat this team because, like you mentioned before, if Anthony Davis is fully healthy, he's one of the best individual players in the league. We'll see how those two work together. But I mean, I look at the way this team is playing right now, the players they'll be getting soon in return, especially one of them being one of the best 3-point shooters we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Have fun, NBA, trying to stop this team because, I mean, we'll see how they look against the Bulls coming up. They do play the Bulls on Friday, which is when I'll be posting this video. But I have been beyond impressed with the play of Steph Curry. I've been beyond impressed with the coaching of Steve Kerr. I mean, we're only 10 games into the season, but I do have 2 questions for you. Is MVP and Coach of the Year already set in stone?
I would say
One of them is, in
MVP.
my opinion.
I think I would say MVP is. I would say that for Coach of the Year, again, and this may be a little biased because I'm a Miami Heat fan, but in Eric Spoelstra's long tenure as a head coach, he's never gotten the respect that he deserves. And when you hear people talk about their expectations for this Miami Heat team and where they can go and the record in which they'll finish off with and where they'll finish in the Eastern Conference, I just feel at that point in time, how do you not give it to Eric Spoelstra? That's my only gripe. I mean, I could obviously see going to Steve Kerr. We know he's going to be a finalist, obviously, because this team again is going to be unbeatable. I don't think they're going to lose many games, but I would say that would probably be the only head coach that I could see him competing with. I
I
don't
got one
see
other
a
name,
yeah. Okay.
and it's only because of what's happened right now.
Okay.
I watched this Celtics play the Wizards twice. I think Unseld's legit. And I know
Yeah.
it's way too early, but I've been very impressed with him. Same with Billy Donovan. But I figured I'd ask you those 2 questions because I don't know who's stopping Steph Curry right now, especially if this is the 1 seed in the West, which is what we both expect him to be. The fact that he was able to do this, yes, I understand the schedule is easy, but if he doesn't have the full arsenal to work with, and he's still putting up these numbers, it's going to be hard for someone to
That
catch up for this team to him
that's
in this race.
I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Alec. You talk about like it's just been impressive what Stephen Curry has done. Is it really impressive? I just feel like at this point in time we just expect this. Like we expect this because we don't know what to expect.
But
He
last
set the
year,
bar so high that it just becomes almost a reality of greatness.
yeah,
Like 50-point game by Stephen Curry gets taken for granted because we know what he could do. We know he could do this on any given night. We
I
know
think
he can make teams look stupid.
what's so impressive, in my opinion, is he's putting up these ridiculous statistics in a league where we see ridiculous statistics, and he's winning.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of guys, Bradley Beal specifically is a guy that puts up ridiculous numbers,
You
but
know, like second or
every
third in the
time,
league in scoring on a team that's the 10 seed.
yeah, if you
Not
look at
now,
it,
but
I,
before.
I remember a stat line last year, and I don't know if it's the exact, but like every 40 plus or 50 plus point game that Bradley Beal recorded, the Wizards were like 2-11.
Yeah.
So, but they're
Yeah.
winning. They're
Yeah.
winning.
They are now.
They are now.
We'll
Yeah.
definitely make sure we talk about the Wizards a little bit later because I do think they've been one of the biggest surprises here early on in the season. But let's just do a little bit more projections for the future here with the Golden State Warriors. Like I mentioned, 10-1, off to a ridiculously solid start to the season as they await for some of their star players to return for this team. I mean, their schedule does get a little bit tougher down the road. I did mention a team like Chicago. They'll eventually see the Brooklyn Nets on Tuesday. Cleveland's actually better than I thought now that I think about it. So we are going to see some more competitive games here down the road. But if you were to project almost like a win total or like a seed total as of what you've seen for them right now and moving forward, what is your vision for what you see for this team for the rest of the season?
So 82 games in a season, I think what they've shown me so far, combined with what they're getting back in a Wiseman and what they're getting back in a Klay Thompson, which is just it's so scary to think about. I think that they finish off with around 15 to 20 losses this season.
Damn.
I think they're that good. I know I texted you today and it was like we were talking about talking points with this Warriors team, and I'm like, I get it, man. It's only 11 games in the season, but how crazy is it to just even think about to fathom that just a couple years ago they set the new all-time NBA record with 73 wins and 9 losses. And it's just crazy to even think about that as well as they're playing. And I get it, they've had an easier schedule to start the year. like this team is capable of doing so again. Like they can get that close again. That's why I'm saying like 15 to 20 losses. It might sound like, wow, you think they're going to win 60 games or 70 games? Like, yeah, yeah, this team is capable of doing that. Like, who is stopping this team? You're not stopping this team defensively, and you're not competing with their offense. So how are you winning games against them? Where are the losses coming in the loss column?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned earlier in the show, their one loss came
In an overtime
overtime by
loss
3.
by 3 points. That was it. It wasn't a blowout. It wasn't a game in which they played a way better opponent. It was an overtime loss to a Memphis team who's is semi decent. But again, you're going to lose games like that. But point being is that that's your only loss of the season, an overtime loss by 3 points. That's it.
So, yeah, here we are. 11 games into the season. The Golden State Warriors sit 10-1. Steph Curry's on pace for MVP. Steve Kerr's on pace to be a candidate for Coach of the Year. And this is all without Klay Thompson and James Wiseman in their starting lineup. It's a special story. They were a team that could have won were rumored to potentially win the West this season. They're on pace to do it. I am beyond impressed, even though you told me I shouldn't be, because it's something that we should expect. But it's been absolutely incredible here so far early in the season. So, Kyle, before I let you go, man, how can our listeners here keep in touch with you on social media and listen to some of your other podcasts?
So on Review and Preview, sports platform, every Tuesday from 7 o'clock to around 8:30, 9 o'clock, depending upon the content that we're pushing out. Usually a 2-hour show every Tuesday, talking all sports, obviously what's relative in the sports world. So right now, basketball and football. And then if you want to follow me as well on Instagram, that's probably the main platform in which I use, at Kyle Russo 612. That is where you can follow me. If you like what you heard, if you like what you've heard from me, if you don't, you can message me. We could talk, but that's where you could find me on all my platforms that I use.
Awesome. Well, Kyle, thank you very much again for joining me here on the Alec Walt Show, and I can guarantee our listeners here we're going to talk a little bit more here this basketball season. All right, well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Alec Walt Show. I'm Alec Walt alongside Kyle Russo. What do you think of the Golden State Warriors? Where do you believe they'll finish here in the Western Conference? Feel free to comment that below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Down the Block Sports for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.